This conference will now be recorded.
And Chris, do we have people signed up to speak?
I have one card, Judy Peck. I'm sorry, Eagle Point Circle. She'd like to talk about ponds.
Judy Peak, 12401 Eagle Point Circle. I'm not sure where we're at as far as the budget and when the money's gonna be in place. My concern right now is, in our discussions, we always talked about the preserves were a great asset to us. I find it strange that every time they come and spray, they don't spray behind our house. They spray those preserves. And to me, I've watched it for years, and I thought, well, at some point, I'm just gonna say something. Nobody's keeping the gate, I don't think. Because if you went up there and looked right now, you'd see everything around that preserve is dying, except the alligator play. So my question is, why are they doing it? And how can it be stopped?
Are you talking about the district's contractors are spraying back there?
Yes, sir.
And typically when they're going back there, and I'd have to ask Elle for clarification, I'll ask her to give you a call, if they're spraying exotics or things that are not.
No, they weren't spraying. If you go look right now, it's not exotics. Like I said, they've not went away, but all the littorals are sprayed around that entire preserve. Nothing on behind the residence.
I'll ask Elle to give you a call and clarify it.
All right. Thank you so much.
I'm going to ask, once we get the new contract going, that I want to see a report monthly from staff and sign an initial that they have inspected this stuff. Because my pond was horrible for the last month and a half. Nobody's been over there and looked at it. That's got to come to an end. But I can tell you on the other one, on the wetlands in Gateway Greens, they are out spraying in the wetlands. They've got like 6 or 7 guys all over each of the wetlands I have seen, because they kind of surprise you when you're along the golf course, and then all of a sudden 5 guys come out like, whoa, where'd you come from? So they are working in the wetlands, and I imagine that is exotics that they're trying to do. But the condition of the pond banks has been, at least in Gateway Greens, has been deplorable, just deplorable.
They are at our location too. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
No, we don't have any other speaker cards, and I don't see anybody chatting in online. And Mr. Banks is online now.
Hi, Doug.
I think Chris, for Maryland doing the minutes to reflect the time that Mr. Banks is on.
3:03.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you. I apologize.
Okay, that brings us to attorneys.
Yes, a few things, and thank you for indulging my absence last 2 meetings for the planning commission here in Cuyahoga County, and it's still going on today. So I have to testify, and I'm moseying on up here. It's a pretty incredible project. I think you all received my email yesterday with regards to the sunshine law, as to members-elect Mr. Gephardt and Ms. Walsh. Not any incumbent board members, that would be Mr. Guy, Mr. Tinkle, and Mr. Banks cannot have any communications or discussions with Mr. Gephardt or Ms. Walsh involving any district business, nor can they communicate with each other. I just want to make sure that was clear. And on that point, I saw that Chris has in his materials for today, sort of an organizational workshop or session at one of the first board meetings, I think, with the new board.
We were going to have an organizational session, the swearing in on the 19th, and also ask the board at that time to set a workshop to go over the budget for the next year and have the board set their priorities and let them know what the staff priorities are. And we'll also planning on taking that the next step, which is putting out a survey monkey and showing the residents what the board's priorities are, what the staff's priorities are, and then bringing questions to them as far as the budget, and what they'd like to see for the following year.
You know, and what I'd like to add to that is, if possible, is a sunshine law presentation. I have a presentation on that. We can do that.
Sure.
I can not overburden the board, but it should be a nice refresher. On the FPL easement, Charles Mann and I are playing telephone tag or email tag. We'll just keep up with him on that. On the College Reserve Construction Road, Chris and I received an email a couple days ago. I just replied to it today from Mr. Damsick with regards to it. And the city staff is taking the position that there does need to, an amendment to the DRI does need to be processed and approved to remove that obligation. And so I suggested in the email that representatives of various parties, Pelican Reserve, Community Association, the district, and Lennar WCI have a call next week to discuss the planning of that initial strategy. And I know Russell's here to commit to contributing funds for that. No, the hearing test. But I think Lennar's WCI's position is that we have no difficulty with amending it as long as it does not adversely affect us and doesn't cost us anything. I think that's my recollection as to what Mr. Mann indicated. And Ed had a response to email to that, and you want to?
Yeah, I talked to Steve yesterday, and he indicated to the city basically the same thing that you just said. The next step is that, in my opinion, we need to get staff in the process of retaining a planner, and the way Stephen discussed, a planner and a surveyor that will be necessary to make the necessary DRI amendment. I've never done one of these, but this one seems so simple. I don't understand why. In fact, I even have arguments that this really qualifies for it, but that's a separate subject. We already lost that battle. But I would like to make the motion later on today to authorize staff to immediately retain a planner and surveyor to be on board to start work the minute that we have that conference call. I talked to some people and recommendations were made of possibly RWA engineering, that they do this quite often. They have a pretty good planner. And I don't know if they can get into a conflict of interest issue. I can.
As Tetra Van asked, I think you all have been lately using Morris Compute.
That's the other name I heard.
Yeah, I know the planner there, Tina, she's very good.
But anyway, either one of those two is, I heard those are exactly the names I heard.
So,
But to get them, and I'm assuming that one or the other also provide survey services. But let's get somebody, the last thing I want to do is drag this out to the December meeting, which then we only have one, and then drag it out, and all of a sudden we're in January and we're behind the 8 ball, because I'm understanding that mid-February, you guys are hoping that this is in bed, asleep, dead, gone, and it's not an issue for you.
I think the turnover of Pelican Reserve may be around there, and that's the big thing is, you know, we want to, for Lennar, when we leave the community, we want to be able to leave the community. So our obligation is to restore that road to its original condition. And what I think the DRI amendment is to have that condition removed. And that's really what it comes down to. So we're fine with it, just so long as it doesn't.
Yeah, well, I know stuff like this takes time, especially if we can get the DRI amendment. If the county, or I'm sorry, if the city is anything like the county on reviewing stuff, nothing happens in 30 days.
Or in December.
Or in December, good morning.
Mrs. Flaherty had a question.
So I'd like to get that going.
Who's gonna pay for the planner?
At this point, I'm assuming that this discussion next week would probably be along that lines as part of the discussion.
Can I just make a statement that I think Pelican should pay for the planner? They should pay for this whole project.
We've got a little bit of a difference of opinion on that, but
yeah, that would be a topic of discussion, also an ultimate decision on the board.
That's my opinion.
the last thing I want to see is Lennar going out there, tearing out the road base and returning the FPL easement to the original deal. And then all of a sudden, we've got to go back and reestablish a road base. That just costs money. Let's see if we can get in there and find out what the city wants or is going to require in the way of a road for emergency purposes, and then don't do anything to jeopardize that or add to the cost.
Yeah, and also I think part of the discussion with the city staff would be along the lines of if we, assuming everything's in place and we're walking hand in hand to the city to begin the process of pre-application meeting, we get the city to agree that they're not going to penalize Lennar. And they'll say, hey, listen, you are in progress of revising the DRI so that you don't have to take this action at this time. There might be, and that's something we can have a call with Charles and Steve next week, so that if the city knows in good faith, action's being taken to modify it, they may say, okay, we're not gonna push this time. Lastly, I was asked, I would have told you if I had received one. I was asked today by Mr. Beasley, as the governor's extended his emergency declaration of emergency, but that doesn't extend the executive order dealing with the ability to establish quorums remotely. So we are in a mode now where we have to have physical quorums established. Unless something really radical changes with the virus condition, that's what we anticipate in the foreseeable future. In fact, the governor, in his last executive order, when it went out, press release said, don't expect any more extensions of the quorum establishment.
Just like to go back one thing while Russ is here. One of the items on this deal that's hanging up in the air is the FPL easement that is on the north and west side of Gateway Boulevard. Are there any issues that Lennar has on transferring that over to the CDD along with what has already been agreed to south of and east of Gateway Boulevard all the way down to Griffin? Any issues there?
I don't think so. Not to my knowledge. I think, it's obviously our ultimate intention not to own any of that stuff. So,
my concern, and we've talked about this before, is and Charles tried, I tried to get an answer from the county.
My deal is,
On the issue
what do we care about that?
Well, the issue is whether or not we are compliant with the DRI as to open space and recreation area acreage wise. And so part of the discussion that I had briefly with Charles on a phone call was whether or not we can formalize the willingness of the RWC to stay on for a period of time to hold and identify the district. Many actions like enforcement actions by the county. Or maybe just go down there together to talk to Randy Search and say, Randy, come on. Give us a definitive answer. Are you guys going to, Randy's now doing community development? We have this lingering issue. We asked for a definitive answer. He all said that's outside the jurisdiction of the zoning letter. But we need to know, are we in compliance with DRI or are we not on the open space?
I would doubt that we're going to provide any indemnifications if we're not already required to provide, just because, like I said, we're happy to restore the road and do what the approvals presently say and go away. If somebody wants to do something different,
I'm just talking about the
free to do it. Oh, but yeah, I mean, we will transfer the ownership as we're required to do. It's going to come down to the attorneys, and if we're required to provide some kind of a guarantee in that respect, then we'll provide it. If we're not required to do it, then, it's just, they don't want to, obligate themselves to things that they are not otherwise required to obligate themselves.
Yeah, but I'm just thinking the thought too about having Lennar representative and district representative meet like the brand.
Be happy to do that.
Okay.
Be happy to do that.
Yeah, I think that might be, because I think we can face to face, like Randy, come on, we've been asking you guys, are we in compliance? Are we not in compliance? We don't want to get tagged 5 years from now.
What would be the issue? I'm trying to figure out.
Well, there's an acreage requirement in the DRI.
When it was amended. It was amended from 236 acres down to 136.
We want to make sure that that FPL easement counts towards that acreage allocation.
Is inclusive.
Inclusive,
Because,
yeah.
because if the FPL easement is not counting the portion north and west, it adds to 137 acres. We already have 45 or 50 acres, and we have to have about 130. So we would only be accounting a portion of it. So what you're saying is to verify that that can be used to make up the county.
Yeah.
It's easy. We call Cecil up and say, hey, shake somebody's tail.
I
It's
think
ridiculous.
I think if we're trying DD route, suggest, and then if not, then CSOR route.
We'll be happy to participate whenever meeting is like this.
But I don't know that there's any conditions on that component north of the road.
I'm not aware of any.
So, and the title work, we just need to be updated, we have your survey before. And I think that, I'm not sure if I had any lingering issues, but that was going to revisit that and clean those issues up. Thank you.
Anything else? All right. District attorney, or district engineer.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody.
Hi, Danny.
So we have, sorry for the record, Danny Nelson with Tetra Tech. 3 items on the agenda. The first is just a status update of our work we're doing. Just a couple of ones to point out, and one of them we'll talk about again in a minute. The lake banks, we still have the 3 lake banks that were bid in the spring, and we've been on hold with that. So we'll be getting with staff and thinking about when unfortunately our rainy season got really extended this year. Summer didn't come till probably about July and is still going on, and we may get more rain this weekend. So we'll need to be thinking about that. We do have those 3 under contract though, so that's the good news. We'll talk in a minute about the next phase of lake banks, which we're working towards the final completion of. However, as we'll talk about it in a minute, funding issues there from the SRF side. So the other big one is, the other 2 big ones are the constructions getting ready to commence on the first roundabout at Commerce. So we'll be having, some oversight there. And then we're working towards final completion of the designs for the relocation of the utilities associated with Griffin. So that's really the big stuff that we've been working on. So if you have any questions on that, just let me know.
Danny, just add, the 3 ponds that have been bid and are under contract, they are not in jeopardy because of the shortage in SRF funds. We have the funds available to do those.
Yeah, those funds have been obligated by SRF, so we don't have that issue there.
Any issues that would, because the dry season will, are there any issues that are outstanding that would want us to issue a notice to proceed in the next 2-3 weeks?
We haven't had any direct discussions with the contractors, so I'm not sure, if there are any issues there. Chris, I don't know if you've had any discussion either, but we can certainly reach out to them to see if they have any issues as far as, timing or that sort of thing, but I've not heard anything.
Okay, because we're still at control elevation and plus, and God only knows what's going to happen with that storm coming out of the Caribbean.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see any issues with holding off as long as the contractor's okay with it as well, with holding off until January, February when the.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that at the latest, if it does go to January, that we're in a position to issue a notice to proceed, and then we don't find an uh-oh that we have forgotten. So, Chris, can somebody go through that, make sure that we're ready to issue a notice to proceed on that?
Sure. I spoke to the contractor and basically saying when the water levels are down enough, they're ready to come in. And they were looking at January, February.
And then the other one, Danny, that you were talking about, and this is Stephen Coffey's email to us It paints a little bit of a bleak picture on SRF availability simply because I think they have spent all their money and now they've got to start waiting on return. That and in conjunction with what may happen nationally, I think we need to look at other plans. Chris, can we get a hold of Stephen and let's have him do a financial analysis for us that we would take, I forget what the number was, 5-6 months, we elected as the next after those 3. Let's get the dollar value of those and have Steve do a financial comparison of waiting for the SRF money, which could be a year away, as opposed to going and getting a bank loan and doing that same work. What is it costing us in time and money of basically taking what Steve has given us as a projection of when those funds would be available, as opposed to just going to our current bank and saying, hey, let's borrow the funds to do this. Because interest rates right now are very, 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 very. We might be able to get a deal competitive with, close to competitive with SRF.
Sure, and according to Steven's memo, and what he had to say is that they'll look at accepting funding applications August 2021. So we could also coincidentally look at the cost of commercial paper.
Well, there's another side of this, and I don't know that anybody's ever checked this. We did it up north. We go and get what we call interim financing to be able to start the project. In other words, a 1 or a 2 year note, renewable to protect ourselves, but so we could take it out with an SRF loan. The only issue with that you run into is you have to have basically all their approvals in line such that you don't risk eligibility when it does come time to get their money. They'll come back and say, well, you didn't get our approval to do this or do that. You still have to dot the i's and cross the t's, but it would allow us to expedite and continue on schedule of getting these bonds done.
I will say in doing that comparison, you know, the SRF program, which we've used for several years now on this program, has been a really good program. The biggest downfall with this program is the type of project that we're doing, and their funding cycle is, you know, as we know, every year we're limited to 3 or 4 months to get the work done. So the nice thing is they've got a long payback period. They've got typically good interest rates, but our handcuff continually seems to be the period, because their February funding date is typically what we seem to to end up with, and it just makes that challenging. So as we're looking at other avenues, that may be something to consider. If we can open up 9 months instead of 3 or 4 months, that would certainly be helpful as well.
Good point.
Madam Chair, I think along the lines of what was mentioned, and Danny, Chris can correct me if I'm wrong, I believe Return Finance was always before the program. And that was the one lending institution that was taken out by the SRF loan. And so SRF, at that time, I don't know, people are still at DEP that were there at the time. We walked them through the process and explained everything to them, and they were comfortable with it at that time. So that we may be able to do that again, because that worked out very well.
Well, this timing is killing us, because their schedule of processing the work and processing the paperwork is not in sync with when the water levels are down. And so we end up, like Danny said, we blow 3 or 4 months and 6 months of possible work waiting for them to say go. So we're racing against the wet season quickly approaching. So we get March, April, and May, and that's about it. Whereas if we go this other way, that would be behind us.
Danny, you have something else? Okay, so we are done with district engineer, is that right?
Yeah, well, we had there was one other item on there, and this will actually require action. It's the second item on there, I think 3.3B2, and that's associated with Arborwood Phase 3. This was discussed, I believe, a couple of meetings ago. The bottom line, we're satisfied with everything that's there. We went back through, we had a few items that we needed to be addressed. That has been done. So we are, we're essentially good for this for construction. One question that did come up earlier was, are the meters individual or bulk? And we verified the both the irrigation and water are individual meters per unit.
Did we get around that problem with that permit across that unnamed 100-foot right of way?
Not yet, but we have the agreement. That's
Well,
signed by Russell.
yeah, can I speak to that for a second?
I'm sorry?
Can I speak to that?
Oh, I'm sorry.
For the record, Russell Smith. Yeah, so the issue is the utilities need to cross a piece of right of way. I'll be happy to.
I'm sorry.
Yep. No, that's.
Thank you.
For the record, Russell Smith with Lennar. The issue is the utilities are being provided to just the north part of Arborwood are being provided by the GSD. South part is by the city of Fort Myers. And to get the utilities there, they need to cross a piece of right of way that borders the outside of the property and interconnect with Pelican Preserve. The city is insistent that they will only give a right of way permit to cross the right of way because that's what they give every other utility that crosses their right of way. And the GSD is asking for an easement. And so we are a man in the middle trying to work these two guys together. I talked to Saeed Kazemi, the city manager, right before I came in here, and they are pretty insistent that they give a right-of-way permit because that's what they give every other utility, including FPL, that crosses their right-of-way. And I guess the issue is that if they ever want to build a road there and they say that, the utilities have to move, if you have an easement right, you could say, nope, because you have an easement right there. So they want to only give a right-of-way permit. So we just want water and sewer. We don't really care. But I've got the city of Fort Myers and the GSD kind of at loggerheads on this. So anything we can do to help move that along, we'd appreciate.
Yeah, I guess just, Madam Chair, I may, just speaking off the cuff, not knowing when the city is planning on building that road, I mean, do we have any idea, Russell?
No, I don't.
And because as we've experienced recently with the cost of relocating utilities, it's not been a pleasant experience, and just trying to find a way for the district not to be caught in a pickle. And say even 2 years down the road, they have brand new utilities, and the city said move them or do something else. Number one, I guess number two, would they be constructed to be of the type that would be under a roadbed, road right of way, deep enough so that they weren't to be relocated, or some additional like flowable concrete put over them like they had to do on a tree line, I think.
Well, I think we could probably work, if
I'm just thinking out loud.
yeah, I think we can work out something in that regard, in terms of construction specs. If we can fix it with engineering, that's, we can fix it with engineering. I don't think we'd be opposed to anything with that.
I'm good.
We got 3 lines. We got a reuse line, we have a water line, and we have a storm sewer. That's
Force main is just,
So force main?
Yeah.
I think force main goes north.
I think this is north. I think it's a force main, a water line, and a reuse line.
Is Danny, are the gravity sewers serving Arborwood Phase 3 go north into Pistoia, or they go into Gateway Greens?
Hey, this is Stephen Agapi. So it goes to a lift station in Arborwood, and then through a force main, it goes north to Pistoia. Manifolds of Pistoia then goes to Breda.
So my question is there a sanitary sewer gravity or a force main crossing the 100-foot?
It's a force main that goes across that
So we
city.
have four pipes. We have a sewer force main, a water line, a reuse line, and a sanitary or a storm sewer.
No reuse.
What? Huh?
No, the irrigation comes from the south.
I thought the reuse was looped.
No, because Pistoia is on a master meter, so they couldn't loop it.
Okay, good point, good point. I imagine those people would argue with like that, but anyway, so back to 3 pipes. 100 feet is so easy, just encase the pipe.
Well, that's what I mean. If it's
Encase,
if it's an engineering thing, I just got one guy saying I want an easement right, and one guy saying I want a right-of-way permit. We'll fix it with engineering if we can fix it with engineering. If you guys will take a right-of-way permit and a construction spec, we'll figure that out.
who needs who's on first? Who's got the ball on this?
We're the ones, we could definitely protecting the interest of the district in that particular capital facility. Because one of the unknowns is, and I'm not an engineer, but see, I'm surrounded by engineers, but when they do roads, they do drainage. And out and do the drainage calculations, where they propose to do the drainage system. And would that be something where it might be complicated?
It's just a side ditch issue. That's not that difficult because you usually have to have 2 feet below the, get rid of the side ditch. You can make those calculations pretty easy. I think we need to just go down to somebody and say, hey, guys, we'll encase those right now, or we'll promise to encase those when those go in, and we'll be done with it. This is, I've never heard of anything so silly as this.
It's difficult. Like I said, if it's a construction spec and a right-of-way permit, you know, if we'll agree to your construction spec and you'll agree to the right-of-way permit, then I think we solve it, I think. You know, so.
Yeah, because if we did it the other way and we went in and built it like we were normally gonna do, and they improved the road just like the county did, here, we're gonna be doing the same damn thing anyway.
Yeah,
So why not do it the first?
we can handle a construction spec. Right now, we're kind of in the middle.
Okay.
What maybe a suggestion would be, Danny, Steve, is for the engineers to get with the city staff as to what they would require, and then ask an RWCI to build the facility anyway, construct it.
And since we're about to approve this plan, I think we need to be doing it rapidly, because they're gonna be starting construction, and there's going to be a need to that plan.
Well, we have, so we have an agreement that we approved last meeting that basically says we have to get this resolved before you'll give us service.
Correct.
So, you know, that's the thing, we could conceivably move forward, but there's an agreement in place that we have with the board that says before the GSE will provide actual service and meters and things like that, this issue has to be settled.
So the only thing on the approval that Danny is seeking is it's got an asterisk still on it, this issue right here. That's it.
Yeah, nothing changes from that, as Russell mentioned.
And there might be some other memo conditions that are under the review approval that would be part of it. It's difficult.
Yeah, let's get a meeting with the county or the city and get this resolved. This is ridiculous.
Okay, I appreciate it.
So Chris, I think, Danny, this is an action item then?
Say again, Tony, you broke up?
As an action item, but requesting the board to approve the.
Yes. This needs to, this needs to be approved to put resolution to this item. Yes.
Yeah, would that also address approval of the plat with staff conditions, so we could execute that for approving the development?
I'd say approve the plans and plat with the subject to the conditions attendant to the construction and a final review of the plat by district staff.
Yeah, I thought 2 months ago, there was an issue on the plat. Has that been resolved? I can't remember what it was, but there was something that was on the plat.
Was the
We're good from our side with the plat.
Okay.
Yeah, they pursued it.
I think it was resolved. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, that's excellent, and we'll facilitate whatever meetings you need.
Some clarity? Yes.
Until we do the road.
Okay.
Yeah,
And that's the other.
both of them. Same people are meeting with this.
So I'm sorry, Mr. Flaherty.
Yes, you want to approve the plans and the plat, but not the road.
Well, approving it subject to the conditions that we have to do.
What conditions?
Well, the request would be to approve the plans, construction plans and plat for Arborwood Phase 3, subject to any conditions of review that Tetra Tech and your manager have already included in the approval. Sometimes there's approval with conditions, as well as, so I don't know if we need, the other issue is tied in, we already have an agreement for that. Which says we're not going to give them service until we're happy about having the requisite.
All right,
So I guess we can have that as a condition if necessary, but it may not be necessary. Yeah,
so they, until they do correct the condition of that road, they're not getting service. This is correct.
no, what we need to do is resolve the issue about the district having the lines going under the road to the satisfaction of the district. I can't recall the exact language in the agreement, if it was that they would provide the requisite easements or would get the requisite easements from the city.
It was.
I think that was it. And so that, this concept of having the construction specs be a little more hardened would be a function, I'll call it, of a right-of-way permit. So it would be a right-of-way permit along with construction specifications for the underground facilities to try to eliminate the possibility of them having to be moved when the city builds the road. So I would suggest the motion would be to approve the plat and plans for construction for Arborwood Phase 3, subject to the engineer's prior modifications and revisions. Authorize signing of the plat after district staff review and subject to satisfactory resolution of the issue about the pipes under the road. And again, all that can be accomplished, but we still have the lingering issue that we'll continue to move forward.
Just to clarify, Mr. Pierce, the signing of the plat isn't contingent on the resolution of the pipes.
No, that'll be part of the, in other words, that's part of the overall process here.
No, I just want to make sure.
Yep, no.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Okay. Have a motion and a second?
Sure.
Do Mr. Banks or Mr. Guy have any comments to make? before
I do not.
call? Okay, I will call the vote. Mr. Tinkle,
Aye.
Mrs. Flaherty,
Aye.
Mr. Banks,
Aye.
Mr. Guy. Mr.
Yes.
Guy,
Yes.
and I'm an aye, so.
One question, not on this, but for Russ, you all have a, looks like an oil separator, but a surface separator that's been out there in that pond, I think since Christ was a child. We need to get that thing out.
Now, which pond are you referring to?
The one that's along our Wood Phase 3.
I'll look at it. I'll come back to the next meeting, I'll report back.
It's now found its way over to the bridge under the cart path, going from 11 to 12. And I'm afraid it's going to become a restriction one of these days.
Okay, I'll go look
So
at it.
I can check that out.
Yep.
Thank you.
Danny, did you have anything else?
No, ma'am, that's all I have. Thank you. I'll stay on though, in case there's anything that pops up.
Okay, thank you. So that brings us to district management.
Okay, I'll just mention that the organizational meeting on the 19th, besides the Sunshine Law presentation by Tony, we're going to ask the new board to set a workshop to look at budget priorities and staff. Ask the board to set their priorities and also use that as a vehicle to get input from the residents, and also to use that as the base to start preparing the budget for the following fiscal year. Our roundabout, I put a flyer out that just came out today. They'll be starting construction November 11th.
Who's getting this?
It came in today. We put it on our Facebook page on the website, and we started sending it to the HOAs, and Lori has a copy of it in Gateway Greens. And by tomorrow, everybody will have it.
Well, they've gone, and you indicate that tree clearing is underway. I guess if that includes putting the red tag and the red X on the trees, it's underway. I haven't seen a tree removed yet, but
They'll be starting to do their clearing and grubbing.
everybody that I have shown plans to and shown this to, especially the ones that have any engineering knowledge, are laughing their you know what off. Just stick around and watch, because it is going to be a mess. And did we get a decision? Are we going to go 6 months and close the road, or are we going 12 months?
No decision right now. They're looking at possibly some limited closure when they get closer to some of the paving to expedite that process. But right now, on the front end with utility construction, no. Everything will be going one lane straight ahead or right.
I walk the dog every morning between 7:15 and 7:30 on Gateway Boulevard. And the only difference between it and the Indianapolis Motor Speedway is 350,000 seats for people to watch. There are cars going up and down that road, I swear, 60 miles an hour. And they put a cop car out there, LCSO, and if LCSO's listening, scarecrows don't work. There's nobody in the car. They come by that car coming from 82, they see that thing empty, and the first thing they do is hit the pedal and fly past the swimming pool and the Gateway Greens entrance. It is pathetic. I don't know what we did, but somebody's going to get killed out there.
Well, you remember we did hire off duty to do some supervision and traffic enforcement in the morning and afternoon hours. And in that 3-hour shift, they wrote 13 to 15 tickets per shift.
Is there a prohibition, Tony, that I go out there behind a tree with my golf gun and stick out and aim it at the cars?
By golf gun, you mean like a radar?
Radar.
Okay. Making sure not shooting-
Glad you clarified that.
making sure we're not shooting golf balls.
No, it's,
That's
my
fine.
only fear is that somebody would say that there's a laser coming out of it, which there is, but somehow, some way, we got to stop this. That's why I'm all in favor of closing the Declan Road. That will stop the people coming off 82 and cutting through. And what they're trying to do is make time. They're making time on Gateway Boulevard to get to Daniels. That's all they're doing.
Temporary.
Do what?
It'll be temporary.
6 months, goes a long time.
Period.
They'll find a different route.
I think that one lane will slow it down quite a bit.
Yeah.
Right turn and straight only.
Well, they'll just start hitting their lights at the, what do you call it, the Boulevard Delta. But they aren't gonna slow down up in our neck of the woods. They fly down that. It's dangerous.
That's the update for that. We're also continuing to work on the evaluation of the meter system and should have a status report meeting with the consultant next week on that. Utility rate study is moving forward. We'll have the consultant making a presentation to the board in a workshop on January 21st, looking at impact to the rates for those SRF projects. And also Mr. Tinkle will be looking at rates to establish a stormwater utility at the same time. And we also will be asking them about commercial paper versus SRF.
Yes, we have Stephen's preliminary report, at least on the ponds aspect, if we can get the dollar value to him, such that we have that one we have this meeting.
And we'll be comparing both of those, the SRF, using that as a vehicle for the following year for funding those 3 utility-related projects.
Yeah.
But also look at commercial paper in comparison. We can also look at the same time commercial rates through that paper for the pond banks.
Or like we said, interim deal that we did before.
You said you're gonna establish a rate to establish what?
The rates will look at paying for those SRF projects, the principal and interest for the 3 projects that are included in the facilities plan. And as I mentioned, the application for the $277,000 in design and permitting will be coming to the board on the 19th. And in February, that agreement has to be executed. So application goes in and that funding has already been approved by the DEP for those 3.
And for clarification, that's for utilities or for water?
Utilities.
Okay, and the nice part about that, as far as the borrowing, we'll be pledging revenues from the rates as opposed to pledging assessments. That's the concept.
Right.
And that, in fact, that's actually what they probably used to more often, the DEP.
And we'll also be discussing too, Tony, if they borrow the money from the SRF, would it require another bond validation?
If it's maturity more than 5 years, yes.
Okay, so we'll be
It might be an easier process.
right. We'll be looking at that as well. And we're also moving forward with our water use permit modification, and that's basically providing us the golf course irrigation wells, putting them into our system, and having the surface water system that the golf course uses for irrigation be transferred to them as a standalone permit. And the only issue that's come up with that is they're going to want a few piezometers and monitoring stations set up on the wetlands, on the power line easements, just to make sure we're not impacting those wetlands with any withdrawals.
Which way?
Wetlands right along the power line easements by the wells right across Griffin.
For the golf course?
Well, it's the golf course wells, but we're going to put them back in operation. We already have one in operation.
Okay,
this year.
it's the piezometers are going in to maintain, protect the wetland, not based on the golf course's drawdown,
Right.
on our drawdown of the other wells.
Yeah, they aren't concerned about the surface water.
What's that got to do?
And the drawdown over there. But, and again, we're looking at those as backup water supply. And also if we get another Hawthorne well installed, we'll have some other fresh water sources to mix the dilute chlorides. But that's moving forward, and that was a $16,000. And we're also moving forward with making a request to Lennar to see if they had any intention to make a draw on any of the remaining funds from the revenue refunding bond, the 2013 series, and there's still some money left in there. There was some allocated to the Track E Model Center, $197,000, and also Villa Capri, $151,000. And that would leave $108,000 in excess funds that we were going to try to free up to do surface water improvements for the Pelican drainage system.
So they got 2.6 million right now available?
No, there's 306,000 left in the
306.
account. Yes, sir.
That was the original deal.
That was the original money, I'll call it set aside when they did the refunding, which I think 08. if I'm not
Correct.
mistaken.
I thought I saw Bob's eyes light up there for a second, but
It's a 3 million lira.
And they've spent quite a bit of that money on pond improvements and aeration. And so what's really left is 108,000. We've talked to Pelican about that for improving the drainage in the north side of Pelican Reserve. So hopefully we can come back in the next month or two. About you. We did the one pond and we're looking at moving over to the other and getting some cost sharing with you.
Madam Chair.
Let's see,
Madam Chair.
Yeah.
Ms. Banks?
Yeah, I wanted to propose an option for the board. Chris, if you go back to that previous slide where you were talking about the district priorities for 2021, looking for a time for that. What I would like to propose is that we use the meeting on the 19th for that workshop, as well as also having an opportunity for the board with the new members coming in to spend some time to look at and have some open discussion on their priorities, where there's opportunities for potential changes or adjustments, improvements to everything from how we structure meetings to just any areas of opportunity. I think we typically don't do this up front. We'll do it at some point later on, but I think with new members coming in, I think it would be a great opportunity before we assign officers to understand, have some open discussion on what the district priorities are, and have open discussion before we even get started on where we believe there's opportunities, whether it's operational within the board, how we run meetings, just different things, and then push the officer selection to that next meeting in December.
Mr. Banks, this is Attorney Cures. The statute provides that upon election of new members, there has to be the appointment of the officers. And because we will need a new chair, and so that's the statutory requirement. Let me find the language for you.
We ran into this a couple of years ago. Doug, I like the idea, instead of moving into the next meeting, which looks like it's a problem, I wouldn't mind having that discussion of priorities and everybody have a little talk before there is a officer election process. That doesn't bother me. I think it's a good idea.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead, Doug.
No, go ahead.
Tony, I know that one year, people, because we could not have a full board present at the second meeting in November, that the election of officers was due to the first meeting in December. Is that, I remember that happening, so.
Yeah, I think that, again, that was unusual because in the function, we could not have the board.
It said something about there were so many days after the election that it had to be.
Let me,
I think that was, I agree with you, that happened.
let me check that.
In fact, it happened, I think, when we came on.
Bear with me.
I want to say it's like, something like 16, 18
Okay,
days.
well, it says as soon as practicable. And that's as soon as practicable is actually the date. After each election, the board shall organize by electing one of its members as chair and by electing a secretary. But that's as soon as practicable, and I would submit that's as soon as practicable is the November 19th meeting.
But it doesn't say when on the 19th we have to do it. We could have a workshop in the morning or in the beginning. And then that.
This is 2 weeks. We could, Mr. Guy would be chairing the meeting.
Yes.
That's fine. Yeah, okay. That works. To do it that day, that way.
Fine with me.
Doug, did you have anything else you wanted to add?
No, I don't think so.
I have questions. Oh, so manager, okay. About a week and a half ago, I emailed you about potholes on Gateway. Did you get a hold of Lee County?
Right, got a hold of Lee County, and I believe they've all been fixed.
They've already fixed it.
No, there's some more.
I found 3 of them that were fixed, and I gave them.
Yeah, there's one just past Hidden Lakes before Gateway, and as you go into Eagle Point, on that turn left lane, I'm sorry, it's right at the beginning, there's another one there. So, thank you.
Sure.
And the other thing is Laura gonna be giving a report, because there isn't any there, and I just was wondering how the HR book is coming.
She was not going to give a report today, and I believe she said at the last meeting they were going to bring that revised HR report to the January.
January, okay, I just was wondering how it was going. Are they progressing? That's what I wanted to know. Thank you.
Think utility billing updates.
Yeah, and that's just minor. We were talking about, we're having a new hydrant rental agreement. We always seem to have issues with hydrant rentals, most recently on Gateway Greens and property damage, one of the contractors that rented it. Also, our AMI metering assessment is in the final stages. This is from Leslie. And we're also having a few claims of damage as a result of that fiber installation. And typically when we have folks call, we're referring it back to the HOA. But we seem to get a lot of those calls, and when it's not utility lines or lines on private property. But I think so far they're doing their best to avoid them or repair them as soon as some damage. Tinkle, you have any comment on that? How it's going over there with your residents and customers?
I'll say it again, I think our staff is doing one heck of a job, along with the inspection. It always helps when you've got eyes that are always watching. So the inspectors help, but when we do have, and we have had, the other day, we had a water main break, 6-inch water main. And when you break a 6-inch water main with a hatchet,
It cleans the hatchet.
it does clean the hatchet. It also cleans the street if anything, because it moves it on down the way. But we had a 36-inch storm sewer that Westinghouse, in its infinite wisdom, laid, and then came in and put a 6-inch water main 2 feet, maybe 26 inches below the ground.
Oh,
On top of, and not only on top of the concrete pipe, they put the bell at the top of the concrete pipe, which is the weakest part of the whole deal. And the guy's down there hatcheting a root from an oak tree, which I just love those damn things. Hatcheting it, it was probably about that big, and he was down to the last little swing. Well, it went right through the wood, down through the dirt, and hit the 6-inch water line.
And
And I
typically,
mean, the guys were out there, they did a heck of a job of cleaning up that mess in an area that was infested with oak tree roots. It was a mess. And I think they're getting an experience, but I think they've got plenty of experience now. I don't think they need any more, so I hope we don't get too many more of those. But just what we're going back to said, thank God that shut-off valve at that cul-de-sac worked. Otherwise, we'd have been draining half of Gateway Greens into down that street. But the staff continues to do a heck of a job on locating and then repairing these things, and they happen instantaneously. You blink and we hit a utility. The staff's doing a hell of a job.
Tony, from a liability standpoint, when you look at damage from a contractor, but they put in a ticket where they're digging, say, to 28 inches, and we locate a pipe, assuming it's at least 3 to 4 feet deep, but the pipe has 22 inches of cover, we end up fixing it.
That's a tough one.
Yeah, well, it is a tough
Well, but
one.
they put the ticket in for 28.
No, it was right in there, but
I think
like I said, when they put in 28, we assumed that the pipe's deep.
I would think that if we went to the as-bills that we've got, I have my doubts that it shows that one line on top of that storm sewer. I have my doubts.
As found,
Do I?
as found.
As found, yeah, that's Danny's word.
Okay, and next up, Brian, he has project updates.
We did a little pool maintenance work here. We reopened the pool up on October 21st. Since the chairs and stuff were sitting idle for months on end, that took a lot of manpower, but Ryan and Tim spent probably all week getting everything prepped for the pool. So the pool is open back up. Hopefully it stays that way. COVID, we'll see, but we are open. We did some work over here at the soccer. Had Matt Tower come in and we had 18 12 by 12 yard drains. Problem was there are going to be safety hazards. We have what we call 6-inch ADC pipes over there, which is your drainage. While they were doing that, we come to find out these pipes are pretty much shot, folks. So I do have an estimate to replace them that I'll be bringing to the board meeting in December. Part of an agenda item to start replacing the drainage over there. But what we did in the meantime is we shored up the yard drains so no kid would get hurt. We raised them up if we had to, concrete around the pads. I think there's some pictures, Chris, if you want to keep going down. Basically like that. So what we do is when we come back, we replace a 6-inch ADC, now where that's like a plastic pipe. We would put a regular schedule 40 or schedule 80 conduit where you can clean it in the future. So that way we wouldn't have to replace all those drains and we just spent a lot of money to fix. But we're making progress. I mean, luckily now the dry season's hopefully here, pending this weekend, but yeah, the fields are in good shape and this helps out. We don't have no liabilities from somebody falling on a hole.
And I'll have to say that picture is a good, shows the new garbage cans and pads that were installed out there in the soccer fields too. The old ones were over a lot of the handholds for the lights, but Brian and his crew poured pads and put new garbage cans out there.
They are camouflage. They look very well. In addition to that, we finished Callaway Greens. Knock on wood, that is done. That was a long process. I had paints and coatings in there. I got a picture of one of the manholes here. You can pretty much eat off the floor now. And speaking of water lines, with this one, we found an 8-inch sewer line in the bottom of my manhole, the stormwater. So to prevent any flooding ever getting down to the ponds, we created another floor now in that manhole. We elevated 8 inches. Pretty much, it looks like this. This is looking from top going down. That's totally cleaned down. At the bottom is a 42-inch pipe going each direction from pond to pond. And to seal that, you gotta get divers in there and they plug those pipes. And we drain that down and dry it out. And he comes in here with this nice quick sealant and just goes to town.
Is that one right off the road right away?
Yes, around that corner of Callaway, that cul-de-sac.
Yeah.
There's another one in the road. The picture looks the same, so I didn't print two of them out. But this is pretty much, I hate to say it, but this is about $15,000 what we had to do one of these. But now we have no more groundwater penetrating from the outside. Problem with this one was that at the bottom of that pipe, when WCI or Lennar, whoever installed it, didn't mud it properly. And over time, the water was coming in so bad, you could stick your whole entire arm through that hole. And we did it Band-Aid seal about 2 months ago to get it all where the water quit coming in. They finally had time, they came back and this is how it looks now. So that'll last us longer than I'll be here, thank goodness. But we'll probably find more. MRI did start our inspections this week. You'll see a little truck in your neighborhood, maybe with a little submarine on the bottom of it, a little cute little camera. He's been over West Links and he'll be here good 4 to 6 weeks to do the camera and all the pipes.
Is he finishing this before he goes south? Or is this part of it?
It's all Basin 5.
All Basin 5.
Yeah, so pretty much from Gateway Greens all the way to Daniels. We went ahead and hurried up and did the intersection at Commerce before the county shows up next week. So we got all those inspected, so that way at least I had video. If anything ever gets messed up, we'll know. Yeah. So that we kind of had to jump on that this week and got it out of the way. So now I think the last I saw him today, he was along West Links over near.
Yeah, he was on West Lake this afternoon.
So you'll see him, stop by, name's John, nice guy. But that's pretty much what we kind of did this month. Any questions?
I have one for you,
Yes, ma'am.
and that was, I had asked if you, I wanted to find out actually, if you had a chance to go by and look at the erosion by that pipe that enters into the lake in Stony Brook, that's behind the first lift station off of Pebblebrook. There's quite a bit of erosion, and it's leading to the pipe that goes into the lake. It's like above it.
Okay,
I had mentioned that when we had that meeting here.
okay.
On the call tonight, and I don't, it's still, I don't think anybody's actually taken.
Do you know
a look
what
at
pond that is off the top of your head?
it. Ooh,
Give me a street.
it's the one that's behind the first lift station.
Okay.
It's probably 58.
Yeah, so
We'll check it out. With the washout, I mean, with water being high, I might have to wait till it goes down to properly fix it. I mean, if I can put riprap in there, but we'll definitely look at it tomorrow.
Okay.
I have to take some pictures and see what we're looking at as far as getting into it. That's the problem with the washouts this time of year. The water's still, like Mr. Tinkle said, we're still went over the weirs.
Right.
Barely, but right now we still are.
This particular one, you've got the pipe, it's into the lake, and it's behind that.
Okay,
So
oh,
the
you're
road is
is it
behind the head wall.
That little pond?
the little pond,
That's what I
yeah.
thought.
Okay.
That's-
I agree, so, okay.
Brian, can I ask for clarification too? Because I think some people might understand and they're going, well, we fixed the storm drain because there's groundwater pouring into it. And they're like, well, so what? There's groundwater pouring into it. So
Okay.
why do you have to go in and fix it?
Okay, well, typically, for those that don't know, we have every pond's pretty much tied in one way or another, pond to pond. This instance happened to have a 42-inch coming out of one pond, goes in another pond, so the water that way, they all, as you're aware of, nothing's going to overflow to the other one. What happened with this one is we had groundwater coming from the outside into the structure. What'll happen is you'll cause either sinkhole next to it, you can cause a road to collapse, or if the water's pouring in too bad into a pipe, you'll cause a big sinkhole. When that happens, it gets very expensive, especially on the roads. I think in Callaway, y'all fixed one before, where the pipe in between structure to structure went under the road. Instead of a $20,000 fix, you're probably talking a $100,000 fix. So I'm trying to prevent these as quick as we find them. Because I know we got a sinkhole now in Stony Brook on one of the roads we just came across, and Kenny's got to tackle that one. But yes, structure groundwater, you will get some in pipes, just because of the way the pipes are designed and they got little rubbers go in between, but you will get some. But when you get enough to come in, the sediments poured into your pipe and you're filling up with dirt, then we come and we'll call it line the pipes or put temporary sleeves, temporary, it's a permanent sleeve, it's about 8 feet long in between the seams. It's a process. If y'all ever want to come out and see it, let me know. But it's interesting, but it works. And we have some good companies with MRI and now with paints and coatings that know how to do this and come in. As you can tell by the manhole, did a hell of a good job on it. I was really impressed. So they will be doing more, and hopefully we don't find out, but I'm not going to knock on wood because it's 30 to 35 years old, and we'll see what we find. That's all I have.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
Hey, Madam Chair, just a quick question, Brian. Brian, were we ever able to work anything out with Robert and the Gateway High School's girls soccer team?
Yes, he's practicing up here.
Okay. All right, great. I appreciate you guys working through that.
Yeah, we took care of it.
Okay, thank you.
Utility manager.
Good afternoon, Kenny Hall, utility manager. Most of my stuff. I just wanted to give you an update on the high service pump. We got an actual date for our gear that we are waiting on to drive the pump. It's going to be 1/31/21. So we will finally get that in. They're telling us that's actually a really good date. That's both in Mexico, and I guess COVID has just ravaged them down there, and they're running on skeleton crews. So what normally would take them 10 days is up, or we're looking at a 90-day delivery date. So once we get that in, we should be good to go on our 5th pump, and that we should be able to close out that project. The Griffin Drive lift station is another one that we are way, way behind on. We're looking at just going in and rebid this one with the 21, because we bought a new fixed bypass pump for the 21 budget, bid them together with hopefully we can get 2 or 3 more contractors in and get a better price, because we're gonna be doing 2 as opposed to 1. Our normal contractor is just so far behind that they are just months and months and months. It was first slated for March, and then it was moved to April, and then they just keep moving it back and moving it back and moving it back. And then finally we don't know when we're gonna be able to get to you all. So that one is we're gonna try to bid out together with a new one, and hopefully we can get them both installed at the same time. The biggest thing is the valve insertion project. We're looking at moving right into the sewer lines for try to coordinate with Commerce Lakes roundabout. This one is going to be how we go about doing these for the sewer, which we really want to get after, but I'd really like to finish Gateway Greens where we are and then move out. But this is kind of, with this roundabout, this is kind of being driven. So we will be looking at, when we do 2 new valves for Gateway Boulevard for the 2 force mains, we're looking at a complete shutdown. That we will have to shut the plant down and then shut our system down, and we would have to do it at night. So that's going to be a big project coming up probably within the next 2 to 3 weeks. The way this roundabout is going, we're going to have to work this out. And then the sanitary sewer cleaning is starting for 21. We started today at Gateway Greens with a follow-up on the main line. This contractor that we have for our sanitary sewer line, whenever we use the big trucks, we get lots and lots and lots of complaints because of the high pressure. This rig that we've got here is a 1-inch line, and it works really, really good. Nobody knows you're there. We don't get all the issues with the blowout of the sewer, with the toilets, or the noises. So
That can be really nasty.
yes, and that creates all kinds of problems. So with this 1-inch line, it really works good.
If your vents aren't plugged, or if your vents are plugged, it gets real nasty.
Yes. Every time we do it, we get lots of complaints for that one. So this 1-inch line really seems to work. We are yet to get any complaints. Most of the time, people don't even know we're there. Just a big noisy truck in the front yard.
That's one they were doing on Gateway Greens Drive today.
Yes. Yes. And that was all I had.
Any questions for Peggy?
Yeah, do we have anything working with Danny and Chris, what was his name?
Fred.
Fred, yes. What our final look at the Griffin Gateway Boulevard utility relocate is going to look like? It's something going to be coming in soon.
And we're talking about that 16-inch. Fred came over and we're going to terminate it at the lift station, and we have approval from KO for the easement.
I heard we had that,
Right.
so looks like everything's working out on that.
So far, so good.
Yeah, and we're just, grappling with some nuances from the operational side of working with the contractors about how to shut things down and make it work. And that's what Kenny was talking about in the valve insertion, that we'll probably end up going north of Skinny Dogs and put another valve in there so we can shut that system down, and also 2 new valves in front of the lift station.
They're requesting that we shut down the 6-inch force main coming north. So the only way we're going to be able to do that is to shut everything down, go in there, cut any valve, and then we can just off it'll go.
Feed off the 12.
Yeah, and just run the straight 12. But if we're going to go and put that 6-inch, we're going to go in for 12-inch too. And in that situation.
And that helps us operationally, and it's something that we're planning on doing, but not at this time. But it really is going to help the contractor, move along. And we certainly don't want any finger pointing on that project that the utility relocation is holding up the road work.
Thank you, Kenny.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thank you. And this will be the last time we all meet at this board. So thank you. It's been a pleasure. Good luck. Good fortune.
And thank you for all your help.
And you said that there isn't a business manager update, so that moves us to action items. Approve the use of district courthouse at 23 to help with reserve during emergency events.
Sure. This is, was brought to us by PPAC, and what they wanted to do was to have representation and people staffing the guardhouse, because during emergency events, especially hurricanes, if the wind exceeds 30 miles an hour, Securitas folks stand down. So they have established a group that will go in and basically man that guardhouse, and that acts as a resource for the community during those times. The guardhouse belongs to the district, so they need our permission. We checked it out with our insurance carrier, and they said that volunteers, similar to other volunteers, are covered under our workers' comp. They just aren't, the wages aren't covered because they aren't paid. But the insurance company is fine with it. We cleared it with them.
Did we had the same issue at Gateway Greens, and they changed all the windows to hurricane. Are those in that guardhouse blast windows, I guess?
I don't think they're blast windows, but I think they cover them, that they shutter them during the hurricane. And
People inside?
well, it's a slider door for the access, but the rest of it is not windowed.
I'll motion to approve.
We put the terminated windows.
I'll second as long as they're not on.
Okay. Yeah, I'll agree with that.
Say that again.
You made a motion to approve, I said I'll second it as long as they're not on.
And we
Militia?
actually asked that question too, so.
Just making sure.
That's like Joe over there at that place on Fowler, buy a big gun.
I've got a paintball gun. Good luck finding a gun.
Yeah.
Come to my house.
Did Mr. Banks or Mr. Guy have any questions on that?
I do not.
Mr. Guy? I will call the vote, hearing none. Mr. Tingley?
Aye.
Mrs. Flaherty?
Yes.
Mr. Banks?
Aye.
Mr. Guy? Is he there?
Yes. Quick, step away from the desk.
So I'm an aye, so that's 4-0.
4-0.
And the next one was resolution 2021 amending the fiscal year 2020 budget.
Is Mr. Bloom online?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me okay?
Yep. Okay, because I can't see you.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is a housekeeping item for fiscal year 2020. Similar to what we've done in prior years, any fund where the actuals in total exceed the budget in total, we are required to do a budget amendment. Again, it's a housekeeping item to make sure that at year end, the district has not overspent on the budget. So what you have in this agenda item is a budget amendment for the Pelican Preserve Fund 02, as well as Stony Brook 00.
Oh, I can tell, and I'm delighted to hear from you.
He's muted.
Okay, so that's kind of what this is doing, and I can answer any questions individually on any of the items, but that's kind of the idea as to the budget amendment. And again, last year we actually did one, I believe, for the general fund and for one other. So we did not have to do that for the general fund, but we did have to for these other two funds.
Mrs. Flaherty, go ahead.
Oh, okay, I'm going to first, okay. You have here fund balance as of October 1st, and I've gone page 57 of the agenda for Pelican, and the fund balance as of September 30th. Does this mean that this is the excess, or is this?
For which fund?
This is for, I'm on Pelican Preserve 57.
Yeah, so the fund balance, it's not an excess. I mean, make sure I understand what you mean by excess. The budget, the actuals actually spent more than what was budgeted. So in essence, it was a shortfall. And if you right there, Chris, if you stop right there, the net change in fund balance line is really kind of the key. So for this fiscal year, or 2020, I guess we should say, the expenditures exceeded revenue by $127,000. You see that the change 282. That's not what this budget amendment is for, but that is what this is showing. The budget amendment only focuses on the fact that the spending, and if you look a couple rows above there, the total expenditure line, so your actuals for the year were a little bit under 2.9 million in spending, but you budgeted, the original budgeted 2.7. So that differential is what you're really, that's what the housekeeping item is to do, is just to, accommodate that. The profitability, I guess, if that's what you're asking, is 127,000. And in this sense, you actually, did not generate sufficient revenues to cover all the expenditures. And I say that with the caveat that the intention was to use some of the fund balance for those expenditures. So this is not a surprise. It's just it's a bookkeeping type of a deal, and that's how the results show up.
So where would that $127,000 come from?
That comes from the fund balance. So what I did for that particular fund balance, because we're always talking about fund balance and reserves. If you go a little bit further, there is a table at the bottom there that kind of shows how that will work. I think it might be on the next page.
Okay.
And Stephen, it may help her, and I'll just make sure that I'm correct. The October 1st is 2019, and the September is 2020.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
It doesn't say
Yeah,
that.
it said,
That's what I
if it was said
was.
budgeted, it then would have been a little bit easier to understand.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll clean that up for the next round. But yes, so basically what this does, and this table was also put on here for PPAC to start to look at this and see if they want any changes. But what you can see there is the beginning balance and then the ending balance and what occurred. So the capital reserve line actually goes up, the ponds goes down, and then the unassigned portion goes down. And that is the net effect on the fund balance for 2020.
Okay. Now, could you also explain then the Stony Brook one too? Would that be? So this balance as of October 1st is 2019. That's what you're saying?
That's October 1st, 2019 to September 30th, 2020.
Okay. So what you're saying is that they overspent 6,000. I'm on page 60 to help you out. Page 6,000 or 16,000. They overspent 6,528 in their budget.
They overspent by the 16,000 is the overspent for the expenditures. They they got additional revenue that supported that, which is why the net change is the 6,000. So that's how you read that. So it's a good one, actually. You can see that that's always beneficial for a fund. So you overspent, but at the end of the day, you actually increased your fund balance as a result of the revenue that was generated. But even though you're still positive, you still have to amend the fact that you spent more. So that's why we're doing this.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much for the explanation.
You're welcome. Yeah, and see, this page shows the October 1st. So moving forward, we'll get the actual show that it's 2019. So that'll make that a little bit clearer.
Okay.
Motion to approve the fund budget amendment.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Do I have any further comment or question? Hearing none, I will call the roll. Mr. Hinkle.
Aye.
Mrs. Flaherty.
Aye.
Mr. Banks.
Aye.
Mr. Guy. Mr. Guy.
Yes.
And I'm a yes. 5-0.
Motion passes 5-0.
And that brings us to consent agenda items. Does anybody have anything that they want to pull off the consent agenda?
A.
Okay. So let's deal with that one separately. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda items 5B, C, D, and E?
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further comment? Hearing none, Mr. Pickle?
Aye.
Mrs. Flaherty, sorry.
Aye.
Mr. Guy?
Yes.
Mr. Banks?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. So that brings us back to 5A. Go ahead, Mrs. Flaherty.
Page 66 in the agenda, it is a grammatical changes. It says, if we go all the way down the third bullet from the bottom, it says, Ms. Sullivan asked, weren't the parking lot being done a few years ago? It should be, Ms. Sullivan asked, wasn't the parking lot done a few years ago? That would be a more grammatical statement, since it's not a quote.
That may be what she said.
I think it was.
I wasn't there.
Actually, I was, and she said, when she first said it, then she paused for a minute, went, and then just finished.
But I'm thinking that if it's just a summary, that we should be grammatically correct. Okay? Except, that's my only. Okay.
What was that, just English 101?
When I read them, I can't help that.
So we'll change the word to wasn't and take out the.
Yes, thank you. Makes me feel better.
Would you like to make the motion?
I'll make the motion with the corrections to approve 5A.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Mr. Tinkle?
Aye.
Mrs. Flaherty?
Yes.
Mr. Banks?
Yes.
Mr. Guy?
Yes.
And I'm a yes, so that takes care of the consent agenda, and that brings supervisor comments. We start with Mr. Tinkle.
Yeah, a couple. Chris, I'm continuing to get concerns from people coming out of Gateway Greens onto Gateway Boulevard and the sidewalk. And I know that the pedestrians have the right of way and that the cars are to stop. But to try to show the pedestrians that there is a road coming for those that are having a problem seeing, can we extend, let's say, with a yellow crosshatch back about 5 feet on both directions, north and south, the sidewalk with a yellow gold crosshatching to let people know that are coming for specifically the bicycle riders. They come up there and boy, if you look left to turn out, by the time you look back right, a guy can come from around the curve on the wall and it's not a pretty scene. Can we, I know we can't put a stop for the pedestrians, but can we somehow draw their attention to that they're entering a dangerous area?
Brian, I actually were looking last week at some signage, you know.
Oh, signage would be
To put up there,
would be great.
but also that warning, you know, the crosshatching or a diagonal.
Yeah.
And as long as it's outside of the county right of way.
The sidewalks are in the county right away.
Yeah, I have to move it back, but we might have to get a right of way use permit to do that from, you know,
Yeah,
that costs more than the paint, I assure you.
I could go out with a paint at night, do that, but it's dangerous. That was one issue. And then the other issue, just tell Margaret, thanks for the years of services. You've done it for a long, long time, and a lot of changes have been made here that should have been made a long, long time ago, but better late than never. So thank you for getting that done, and Kathleen, thank you for the 4 years of service also. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ed. Mr. Banks, I will let you go next.
Yeah, I just wanted to, again, just say it's been an honor and a privilege to serve alongside Margaret, you and Kathleen both. It's not always easy volunteering your time and sitting on a board, but both of you are just remarkable individuals and appreciate everything you've contributed to the board. And hope that you don't go too far, and hope that the future board can find ways to tap into your expertise and your desire to continue pushing this community forward. So thank you both very much.
Thank you.
Madam Chairman?
Go ahead, Mr. Guy.
Kathleen, I'd just like to tell you how wonderful it was sitting beside you all these years, and the help that you gave me on numerous occasions, and the work that I know that you did behind the scenes to get your questions put together in a fashion that all of us can understand what you're interested in and talking about, and the fact that you've made the staff belly up and do their hard work. And I appreciate everything you've done, and I wish you good fortune, and that you find other pursuits that you can work on and be as successful as you were on this. Thank you, Madam Chairman. Thank you, Kathleen.
Thank you, Mr. Guy. It was a pleasure sitting next to you.
Mrs. Flaherty.
I want to thank all the residents for letting me represent them for the past 4 years. And I want to thank all the Gateway staff for helping me when I was confused. And I want to thank all the supervisors for their input, and Mr. Attorney for letting me bother you all the time.
Not about it, never about it.
And I have this for her.
Thank you. I
Half the residents.
saved myself to go last because I just wanted to say that it has been a privilege to serve on this board, and I thank the residents for allowing me to represent them. And it's been a pleasure and an honor to work with the other supervisors. I think we can look at them, especially the last 4 to 6 years, and we really got a lot accomplished. And I thank you all for your support of me and trusting me to be the chairperson. And I was going to introduce our new supervisors, but I see that Mr. Gephardt, did he leave?
I believe so.
Okay. Well, we have Flavia Walsh here. She's going to be joining the board in the next 2 weeks, the 19th. So congratulations. And I would have said that to Bob, but he has already left. We don't get to introduce him today. So with that, I am going to adjourn this meeting at 4:28.
Now there's the second.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
It's been very educational, you girls here, and I appreciate everything you're doing and done, and I've learned a lot from you.